Students, so today we have to study about transmission of the nerve impulse. So the transmission of nerve impulse along a neuron from one end to the other end occurs as a result of electrical change across the membrane of the neuron. So before starting, we must know what is a nerve. So nerve is a bundle of axon. From standard 8 you are studying about it. Bundle of axon is known as nerve. So during the transmission of nerve impulse along a neuron from one end to the other end occurs as a result of electrical change. That we will see what is electrical change. So the membrane of unstimulated neuron, that is in the resting stage, the neuron is polarized. What do you mean by polarized over here? So this is the membrane of the axon. The outer membrane of the axon will be positively charged and the inner membrane of the axon will be negatively charged, or the nerve will be negatively charged. Here also the outer membrane is positively charged and the inner membrane is negatively charged. So there is a difference maintained over here. Potential difference is maintained over here. So such potential difference is maintained in the resting stage, and that stage is known as the polarized stage. So there is a difference in the electrical charge between the outside and inside of the membrane. This is the nerve and this is the membrane of the nerve. So outside there is positively charged and inside the membrane it is negatively charged. So the inside is negative with respect to the outside. Just now we have seen. Now here you see inside of the cell is negatively charged compared to the positively charged outside when nerve is not transmitting a nerve impulse, that is in the resting stage, and this stage is known as the polarized state. The resting neuron is electrically polarized. Polarized here, it means potential difference is maintained. So as nerve transmission is possible because of the opposite charges create a potential difference across the membrane. You observe across the membrane there is a potential difference, that the outer membrane is positively charged and the inside the membrane it is negatively charged. So a potential difference is maintained over here. So, electrical impulse produced in a neuron through the movement of the positively charged ion. Now, you must have to understand over here that the depolarization and the repolarization will occur due to the movement of the positively charged ion, which may be sodium and potassium. Later on, we will see. So sodium is positively charged ion and potassium is also positively charged ion. Electrical impulse is transmitted by the neuron from cell body through the axon to the dendrite. So electrical impulse produced in a neuron through the movement of positively charged ion. So what will happen in the depolarization? The sodium ion will move inward of the membrane, and this situation will be known as depolarization. Okay, and it will start from the cell body through an axon and it will reach to the dendrite. So nerve impulse will start from the cyton, it will travel through the axon and it will reach to the dendrite of the other neuron. So let's see. So there are three basic concepts you must have to understand while explaining the nerve transmission, that is depolarization, repolarization and resting. So in response to a signal, what is a signal over here? Here the signal is any stimulation or change in the surrounding or inside the body. So this change may be the mechanical change in the environment, or electrical change in the environment, or chemical change in the environment, or change in the heat, change in the pressure. So on any of these stimulation, or in any of the response of a to a signal, the soma end is the this end of the axon. The soma end of the axon becomes depolarized. So what happens in depolarization? The sodium ion will move inward. The positively charged sodium ion will move inward. Okay. So this depolarization is also known as the excited region. Okay. The depolarization spreads down the axon. Okay, again and again. So it is spreading from one part of the axon to the another part of the axon, which you are observing in the second diagram. Here the depolarization is moving along the axon. Meanwhile, the first part of the membrane gets repolarizes. So what's happened in repolarization? Again, there will be movement. So movement here will be of sodium ion again, but this sodium ion will move outside of the membrane through the sodium pump. Sodium pump is actually a type of channel which will help in the movement. Like the gates are there, so sodium pump is a type of channel which will help in the movement of sodium ion through the axon membrane or the nerve membrane. So sodium ion will move outward. Here there is a difference. During depolarization, the sodium ion was moving, but there was no exchange of energy, no requirement of energy. So, but during the repolarization, the sodium will move at the cost of the energy, and such transport is known as active transport. Such transport is known as what? Active transport. So that is why it will utilize the ATP for the movement. Because sodium ion channels are inactivated, additional potassium channels have opened, so membrane cannot depolarize again. So how we can prevent the depolarization, or how the neuron is preventing the depolarization? The sodium ion channel gets closed. Okay, potassium ion channels gets opened. So by the outward movement of potassium ion, the depolarization is prevented. So once it is repolarized, it will not get depolarized. Now the action potential continues to travel down the axon. Let's see what is action potential. So membrane potential. And what is membrane potential? The difference of the charge across the membrane is known as membrane potential. Here we are talking in the context of neuron, okay, or the nerve, that is the part of neuron. So during the resting potential, the resting potential is maintained by the sodium and potassium pump, and during the depolarization the sodium gates are open, and during the repolarization the potassium gates are open. The resting potential is at minus 65 millivolt, and the action potential is plus 40 millivolt. So let's see a recap of it. Neurons transmit nerve impulse as electrical signals, but not as electric current. Please don't keep in mind. Carries as electrical signals because the ions are moving across the membrane. So it carries the impulse as electric signals, but it is not electric current due to the two reasons. And what are these two reasons? One is during the flow of electric current, the electron is moving along the wire. If this is a wire, the electron will be moving along the wire. But in the nerve, what you have seen? There is movement, inward and outward movement of the ions. So that is why first reason we cannot compare the nerve impulse as electric current. Second reason, the flow of electric current is the speed of the flow of electric current is 1,50,000 km per second, whereas the flow of nerve impulse is only 100 meter per second. This is per kilometer per second. So these are the two reasons why we cannot compare the nerve impulse as electric current. Okay. So these signals pass along the cell surface membrane of the axon as a nerve impulse. It is not same. So as the electric current, and the mechanism is same throughout the animal kingdom. So all the individuals of the animal kingdom will have the same mechanism for the transmission of nerve impulse. So let's get the conclusion that nerve impulse is a wave of depolarization followed by repolarization. Wave of depolarization followed by repolarization. So nerve impulse is a conduction of, or nerve impulse is a wave of depolarization followed by repolarization. Thank you everyone. I hope you must have understood. So today's homework, you have to write the definition of nerve impulse, then write down the difference between depolarization and repolarization, and what do you mean by polarized state. So this is all for today. Thank you everyone.